Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us. I'm Isabel Hilton and I'll be moderating this IAI debate on passion, action and hypocrisy. So from family feuds to Twitter tirades, many people speak passionately about the need for change, and they draw inspiration from individuals who may have sacrificed life or limb to bring about change. Yet few act on their beliefs, other than casting a vote from time to time, and many continue to participate in systems that they publicly condemn and consider unjust. So are we cowards, hypocrites, or worse? Should we accept that as citizens we don't have the answers and leave it to those who are elected to find solutions to intractable problems? Do we have to recognize that individuals don't have the capacity to change the course of history and simply seek satisfaction and contentment in living according to our own values in our own lives? Or is it the duty of all citizens to act on our beliefs and do all we can to change society in ways that we think necessary? Well, to debate this, I'm joined by four distinguished panelists. John Zerzan is an anarcho-primitivist author and ecophilosopher whose work focuses on the effects of civilization and the urgent need to return to a free society based on a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. Aaron Bastani is co-founder of Novara Media, one of the most influential independent radical left-wing media organizations in the United Kingdom. He's also author of Fully Automated Luxury Communism, which presents his vision of 21st century communism. Emma Slade gave up a high-flying career in finance to become the first Western woman to be ordained a Buddhist nun in Bhutan in 2014. She's an author and founding CEO of the charity Opening Your Heart to Bhutan. And Sir Vince Cable is the former leader of the Liberal Democrats who served almost continuously as an MP since 1997. He was Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills from 2010 to 2015 during the coalition government, and is equally well known for his foxtrot on a Strictly Christmas special. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to lay out their case, if you like, for 2 minutes before we get into the debate in a slightly deeper fashion. And the question that I want each of them to respond to is, should we just accept that as citizens we don't have the answers, and shouldn't we leave it to those who are elected to find solutions to intractable problems? John, could I start with you?
Certainly. Well, I find it encouraging. What I think I'm seeing, at least some signs of seeing the whole business at the necessary depth of the problem, the overarching crisis. And so we've seen, this is the way I would put it very briefly, civilizations come and go, they've risen, they've fallen, and I would argue that there's now just one civilization, a globalized, totalizing one, under the sign of technology and capital, and it is visibly, grandly failing on every level in every sphere, I think. And that's being borne in on people, not just in terms of ideas, but in terms of life. I think we're in the age of pandemics where the epidemics proliferate one after another and tend to become pandemics. And of course, that's where we're at right now. The environmental catastrophe has been arriving, unfolding. The seas are rising, they're acidifying or warming, they're full of plastics more and more. Mass species extinction, the weather extremes, the global air pollution, on and on and on. That's a monstrous failure of civilization, I think. What drives all this? And what of the social, of the soul? Well, we see a landscape, a panorama of anxiety, depression, loneliness, drug use, high suicide rates, etc. You kind of look in vain to find that the dominant order has any answers at all. And so I think it's time to get more serious if we're going to contend with the gravity of all this. And I think we've seen that one particular part of it is technology, which I think is to some degree come to fill the vacuum left by the pretty broadly based failure of political ideas. Political claims and promises, I think, attract relatively fewer people, but the massive advertising of technology that has the answers for everything. It's going to fix everything. That's certainly ongoing.
Okay.
And it says we're all connected. We're more and more connected. Well, the fact is we're more and more disconnected. We're more and more isolated. It claims that we're all empowered via technology. Well, we're more disempowered by the moment.
So I'm guessing from that you don't think there's much point in leaving it to those who are elected to find solutions to this landscape that you've set out. So we will come back to these issues. But right now, I'd like to go to Aaron with the same question, if I may.
In a way, I'm going to repeat really a lot of what John has said. And I think politics, in many ways, has not been more important for any of our lives. I think you can probably go back to the 1930s to say politics has such significance for the outcomes of individual lives. And that's because we're in an era of crisis. And we talk repeatedly about an economic crisis, climate crisis, political representation, and so on. It becomes a cliche. But I think if you look at COVID-19 in particular, it's been described as a boomerang coming from the sixth great extinction and hitting the human race square on in the jaw. And the reason being is that this is the third novel coronavirus we've seen this century, COVID-19. Other two are MERS and SARS. And the reason why we're seeing this accelerate, and there are around 3,000 distinct coronaviruses amongst the planet's bat population, is because of deforestation and because of species displacement. Effectively, the whole world is now adopting fast food and industrial agriculture. And that means there are going to be, as John has just said, there are going to be many, many, many more pandemics. We should be, incredibly grateful this doesn't have a fatality rate of something like Ebola. If you have a mix of something like Ebola with something which is 40% asymptomatic, you see tens, hundreds of millions of deaths. Now, I'm not saying that to panic anybody, but it's an important thought experiment to think, how bad could this have been for the next time? And that's just one aspect of the climate crisis. Another is, of course, as John said, we've all got microparticles of plastic in our bodies. We are looking at 2 degrees warming this century, which will mean fresh drinking water for around a third of the planet will disappear. Then you've got attendant with that the economic crisis, the background noise to all of this. Since 2008, we've not seen rising living standards. Now, we'll have some disagreement about that. Vince will say, well, that can be addressed with a sort of counter-cyclical Keynesian stimulus. Somebody like John or myself would say, actually, this is kind of the end of the road for a certain economic model. But in any case, we've not really seen this happen in Western democracies to this extent, again, since the 20s, since the 30s. And by way of just how much the ecological crisis is intensifying, and this is a remarkable statistic, in 3 years, China is using more concrete than the United States did for the whole of the 20th century. In 3 years. So these things are rapidly building up. And right now, the concentrations of CO2 in the atmosphere are far higher than they've been in the history of primates and then some. So we've been around 200, 300,000 years, but right now concentrations of CO2 probably at the highest level in several million years. So this idea that if we adopt a sort of ethical stance, take a step back, I think in a way that's very irresponsible to future generations, because the consequences, the aftermath of all that, it is coming down the line very quickly, probably in our children's lifetime, grandchildren's lifetime. Okay, so problems are too big to step back from, in other words, but I'm not hearing from you that elected representatives are going to be those who fix it. Emma, can I just go to you, please, and just remind you of what the opening inquiry was, which was, should we accept that we don't have the answers, and should we just leave it to those whom we do elect to find those answers?
Yes, and I think it was to intractable problems, wasn't it? We described these problems in the question as intractable, which I, first of all, want to say, I think if we describe a problem as intractable, we might as well all shut up shop. So let's imagine they're not intractable problems, and they're clearly urgent problems. What I'm hearing in John and Aaron is this incredible urgency of the feeling that time is running out. And I think that speaks to one of the Achilles heels of the human being, which is the capacity to be very short-termist. We are trained as humans to deal with something that is threatening us right now. And of course, a lot of the things that Aaron and John are talking about require a vision which brings the future into now. And I think neuroscience shows that the human being is not good at that.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below. Or visit iai.tv for more debates and talks from the world's leading thinkers on today's biggest ideas.